because the Lakers lost to the Mavericks last night, and LeBron James had some things to say after the game.
Because we still have games to play. You gotta, until you stump me out, cut my head off, bury me 12 feet under, then I got a chance. So that's my confidence. I hate losing. I feel like poop right now, but tomorrow's a new day, and I'm gonna be prepared and ready for the Clippers on Thursday. But that's my mindset. That's just who I am.
The Lakers are 0-3 since the All-Star break. 6 and 15 over their last 21. 6 and 15. That ain't good. They're on pace for just 36 wins this season, which would be the fewest by a LeBron James team since his rookie year. Okay. Matt Barnes bringing all the smoke, and insider Brian Windhorst with me. What's up, guys? Matt, your takeaway from the latest Lakers loss?
Ugly. This is the narrative has changed so much during this season, Max. This team went from a title hopeful, odds-on favorite to are they going to make the playoffs? Normally, anytime you have LeBron on your roster, you're going to have a chance. And I still believe in this team. But I think what they did in the bubble in 2020, people don't really understand how hard it is. They've been putting a new team together every single year since LeBron has been there. And that is hard to do. They struck lightning in a bottle being able to win a championship in the bubble, but that is hard to do, and you're starting to see that. Everyone wants to say this is an experienced team. This is just an older team that's built for the playoffs. So if they're able to make the playoffs, I think, who knows if they'll win a championship, but I think we'll see better basketball because they have more time in between. It's about adjustments, and they have days off.
Brian, your take on the situation in LA?
Yeah, so they don't really have a choice, Max, because they don't have their draft pick this year under any circumstance. So it's not like a year ago Toronto was in this situation. They were not as good as they thought, and they kind of shut down and ended up striking lottery luck. The Lakers don't have that option. And the second thing is, like LeBron said, they do have the opportunity to catch some lightning in a bottle. There is some relevance to the fact that Anthony Davis, the top 15 player, is going to hopefully rejoin them within the month or so. And so that's what they're playing for. But I will say that, LeBron did lay the groundwork before the All-Star break that his knee is going to be bothering him the rest of the season. So I've been listening very closely, and this was the most definitive statement that he's made, that he doesn't intend to shut things down. Now, we'll see. There's still, a month and a half left. But I think it's interesting that there's two things that LeBron cares about deeply. One is winning championships. Number two is history. And so while the championship may not come this year, LeBron still does have something to play for. He's chasing Karl Malone. He should be able to catch him by the end of the season for number two, setting the stage in all-time scoring, setting the stage to catch Kareem Abdul-Jabbar next year. So LeBron will have motivation to play for that, and while he wouldn't admit that, it does matter.
Matt, I remember, and I believe this was the year after you left the team. I was in L.A. doing radio and on the Lakers station, and they traded for Steve Nash and Dwight Howard, and that was and you were on the Clippers at that point, right? That was you had just been on the Pau Gasol, Andrew Bynum team. And they got rid of too many of the Matt Barneses on the previous iteration of the team. And it was Dwight and Nash and all the shiny names. And this, to me, looks like the biggest underachieving team, star-studded Lakers team since that one, right? But in that one, Kobe Bryant kind of staged a behind-the-scenes mutiny. He was like, I'm not running this D'Antoni offense. I'm going to will us to the playoffs. He did. He played himself 40-plus minutes a game. And he wound up tearing his Achilles, and he was never, that was basically the end of his career, right? As Kobe Bryant, until that 60-point performance last night of his career. So what about the fact, Brian brings it up, Wendy brings it up, at what cost do you try to squeak into the playoffs or the play-in and not win a playoff series most likely? You're going to play a 37-year-old with all these miles, 1 million minutes a game? At what point does it get dangerous, Matt?
This is going to be a tough call and a tough situation. Like Brian said, they can't tank or pack it in because they really have nothing to pack it in for. So it is going to be a tough call. And again, I think all the things that Brian mentioned, although they're not discussed, LeBron is very aware of what's going on. His level of play hasn't really dipped, to be honest with you. He's still playing at a great level. The question has arisen in the last few weeks, although LeBron is a great player, can he still carry a team? That's a big question. And I think they were hoping that Anthony Davis obviously was going to be the one that was going to do a lot of heavy lifting and allow LeBron to really shine in the playoffs. AD has been in and out the whole season. So it's going to be interesting down the stretch to see how this team plays it.
Yeah, they never got enough shooting on the team. AD's not there for the defense. What's going on, everybody? I'm Max Kellerman. Welcome to This Just In, a fast hour around the world of sports and how I see it. And we start with Baywatch. Green Bay continues to wait on the biggest decision of the offseason. Will Aaron Rodgers return? Will he ask for a trade? I mean, come on, he ain't going to retire. Here is GM Brian Gutekunst on Rodgers.
I would hope so. Yeah, I think that's obviously start of the new league year. There's a lot of decisions that have to be made before that, so that would be helpful. But I would think we would know something before then.
And my personal GM, I have my own personal GM, Mike Tannenbaum, with me. Mike, as a former GM, you've experienced some of the kind of stuff that Gutekunst and the Packers are going through now, by the way, with his predecessor, among other people, with Brett Favre, among others. How would you feel in the Green Bay front office about Rodgers taking his time?
Extraordinarily disappointed. Aaron Rodgers is being selfish. There's nothing he doesn't know, Max, on March 2nd or March 3rd that he didn't know last Halloween, last Thanksgiving, the holidays, and he's taking potentially meaningful dollars out of his teammates' pockets, specifically the guys that don't have guaranteed money, like a Billy Turner, like a Randall Cobb, like a Preston Smith. Those guys need answers sooner than later. We're here in Indianapolis, and agents are talking to teams are talking to agents, and more money is available to players right now than at any other point in the offseason. If Aaron Rodgers is not coming back, they want to get to the market ASAP, as presumably Green Bay would be resetting and retooling. So by doing that, he's delaying all these other decisions they have to make as we're looking at the screen. So if I'm Aaron Rodgers and you want to be this great teammate, above the fray, this elegance, let Green Bay, let the world know what you're doing.
I mean, I don't know if he doesn't know anything that he didn't know then. He's taking an inner journey with cleanses, and he's listening to his body's natural antibodies, whatever anti-vax hocus pocus nonsense he believes in. Whatever he's doing, he's figuring it out. Doesn't he have a process that he has to, go through, Mike?
So, yeah, and that process should have happened. And again, let's learn from the New Orleans Saints, Max. The last 4 years that Drew Brees played in the NFL, the New Orleans Saints had the best record, period. Sean Payton, Mickey Loomis pushed out the cap charges. The Packers could do the same thing. They could push out cap charges, keep everybody that we just looked at on that graphic, the Preston Smiths of the world, and they could run it back. If he's not coming back, he's hurting them. And again, there's nothing he doesn't know on March 2nd that he didn't know before these retreats and whatever else he's going to do. So I really don't know what he's waiting on.
He's waiting on the retreats. You can't rush these things. As I said, the natural antibodies to get in touch with them, they speak to you, but you got to decipher the messages. Should Green Bay push back on Rodgers? Should they give him a hard deadline?
Well, it's funny. A decade ago, we did the same with Brett Favre. Ironically, Green Bay was trading Brett Favre. They knew they had something great in Aaron Rodgers, and we had to put a deadline on, like, hey, we're either making this trade or we're not. And at some point, Brian Gutekunst is well within his rights to say, hey, Aaron, we love you. We want you here. It's going to be Rogers Boulevard, where Lambeau Field is located. Do all those things. But at some point, we need an answer. We have Jordan Love, but we may want to bring in competition. We have a responsibility to the organization. So as much as we love you, we need an answer. If we don't have an answer, that means you don't want to be here. So they are well within their rights, Max, to ask that question.
How much trouble are Gutekunst and the Packers in if Rodgers tells them he wants out? And I have my own answer written down right here. I'm going to follow you. Go ahead, Mike.
I think there's a pathway to have a real viable team, because if you go get a competent quarterback like a Jameis Winston, who's going to be a free agent, they're still the best team in the NFC North. There's 2 new head coaches, and there's massive uncertainty about Detroit's quarterback situation. So for this season, depending on who played quarterback, keeping Devontae Adams under the franchise tag, they still may be the best team in the NFC North this year.
Who else is a competent quarterback that they can maybe get, Mike? Because I have it written down right here, right here. I have another idea, a guy maybe who just beat Aaron Rodgers from a similar system, the whole thing, coaching tree situation. Maybe Jimmy G? Who beat whom? Rodgers or Jimmy G?
No, and no. Jimmy G is going nowhere. The 49ers, Max, have a great team. Why would you give up a good quarterback who's under contract when you can pair him with Trey Lance and get through a 17-game season? I am hard-pressed for someone to explain to me why the 49ers would be better moving on from Jimmy G.
I hear you. I agree with you, by the way. It just sounds to me like Jimmy G thinks that maybe they're parting ways, but I agree with that. By the way, Matt LaFleur just spoke. There were 11 questions before they finally asked him about Aaron Rodgers. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Yeah, you always want to be respectful because I know it's a lot to take on. He's got a lot to think about, and certainly I'm making sure that I consistently communicate with him, but also want to be respectful of his time and the process that he has to go through.
Your reaction, Mike T.
How many times do you think Matt rehearsed that line? I mean, that was just copy and paste 101. I mean, basically what he's saying is we are begging, we are cajoling, we are recruiting, we're doing everything we can to get the answer we want to have, and he's just running the playbook. So there's really not much they can do. He's kind of hanging them out to dry a little bit too. Again, in all seriousness, Max, when we cut through all this, what is Aaron Rodgers waiting on? Like, you either want to be there or you don't. And either way, we got to go execute our plan. It's okay if you don't want to be here. Just tell us. But the thing to me that's really frustrating and disappointing is you can't come across as this elegant, above the fray, it's about my teammates, when he could be taking meaningful dollars